afternoon. First I want to say I've been pressured into this. Quite a lot of pressure actually, because to speak about His Holiness is quite a difficult thing, especially I don't have any particular connection with His Holiness, apart from Dharma connection of course, but I don't have any other than that, so not so easy to talk about somebody like His Holiness. Anyway, His Holiness was, I can start with His Holiness was born in Tibet, in Amdo, poor family, and so he lived a very, I think, quite a strict life and protected life, probably up to 14, 15, 16, until around 16. Then he was asked to take over the responsibility for Tibet, the country of Tibet, right at 16 years of age. So that wouldn't be too bad, except that China was on the doorstep. Well, it had already crossed the doorstep by then probably, and was putting a great deal of pressure on the Tibetans and on His Holiness, who was the leader of Tibet, 16 years of age. And so from that time onwards, I think his life up to where it is now, 90 years of age, I think he's lived a very, very challenging, very, very difficult life in some ways, but very, very challenging anyway. Not in any way normal. So having the responsibility of his country, the people of his country from 16, and having to lead his country as the Dalai Lama, he's faced a huge amount of challenges and difficulties in his life. So whenever His Holiness speaks or gives talks, I think he comes from a very deep place of incredible experience, incredible compassion, incredible kindness, that is quite remarkable and very difficult to find anywhere. So he's anyways, Tibetans regard him as Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, and that's not so difficult to relate to, actually, even from an ordinary perspective when you see a human being, but you see a heart that's hugely compassionate, that doesn't know any boundaries, I think, has no limits in terms of compassion for living beings. So then I suppose try and figure out a couple of stories. The first story that comes to mind is His Holiness had a very close connection with one great Geshe, his name is Geshe Zopa. He was actually one of the Geshes who debated with His Holiness when His Holiness was receiving his Geshe degree in Tibet, in Lhasa. So Geshe Zopa was sent to the US maybe in the late 60s, and there he started. He did become a professor at the University of Wisconsin, and then also started a Dharma center in Wisconsin, in Madison, Wisconsin. So there was His Holiness invited Geshe Zopa invited His Holiness, and His Holiness was visiting at Geshe Zopa's centre, and so there were a group of students asking His Holiness questions. So one of the students, being very American, or said, Your Holiness, you always, when you tell stories or give examples, you always put yourself down, like you're an ordinary person. So they were this person was complaining to His Holiness that, if His Holiness is just like us, then what chance have we got, to become enlightened if His Holiness is still ordinary? You got the idea? Yes, I think so. So he said that straight to His Holiness, and it was a group audience. It wasn't sort of public. So it seemed like it just sort of slipped out from His Holiness that he mentioned that in the time of Buddha, he was like the main attendant of the Buddha at that time. So he told this story, but it just came out of his mouth that he was, the attendant to the Buddha at that time. So that's story number one. Not doing too bad. Anyway, one time, just another sort of story to show another aspect. One time, this is a long time ago, maybe in the 70s, I was visiting, no, I shouldn't say that, Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche were visiting His Holiness. They were going for a private appointment, and so for some reason I was there, and we went into His Holiness's room, and somehow, for some reason, I didn't realise it, but I walked into the room first, because Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe were doing prostrations before they entered the room. And as soon as I went into the room, His Holiness went over to a chair and said, sit down. And I looked around, I was the only one in the room. And I realised at that time, when His Holiness said that, sit down, Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe were still outside, so they were sitting down outside. So that was like the relationship. As soon as His Holiness said, sit down, they sat down, but they hadn't got into the room yet. So I had to meekly go outside and ask Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe to come inside. But anyway, that gives you an idea of sort of the respect, I think, especially the Lamas, especially Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe, had for His Holiness. And then, of course, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I did visit His Holiness with Lama Zopa Rinpoche when Rinpoche would visit His Holiness, and that was usually maybe once a year. Rinpoche would visit and sort of give a report, and so it was very interesting to see the relationship between Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe and His Holiness, because one aspect was very serious and also very respectful, and then another aspect, it was almost like they go into almost like two children playing with each other, joking, or that kind of aspect, So it would just sort of move back and forward. It was sort of it was very interesting to watch that kind of play. So His Holiness seemed to, he's very, I think, as well as being somebody who has a huge, incredible responsibility, but his mind seems so easily to move into, being almost childlike or very joking quite a lot. So he has this, and can be very relaxed, very easygoing, also very serious and very scary. Scary. But also, I think His Holiness has been, so I've mentioned some of those sort of silly things, but His Holiness has been also such an incredible example of what is really, really meaningful in this life, especially in these times, against all odds, and I think up against incredible, huge challenges. His Holiness, huge challenges, and especially being responsible for, several million Tibetan people, some of them actually giving up their lives, in many cases giving up their lives for their country, for their belief in freedom. And but His Holiness has held such a strong stand of, being an incredible example of kindness and compassion in the face of, unbelievable obstacles and challenges, but never ever budging or moving towards violence or coming from a place other than compassion or kindness, not just for his own people, but for other people around the world and for people of China. So I think it's quite amazing to have that kind of example with us in these times, right? Like, it's a real, incredibly solid voice of some really solid, stable, wise and compassionate voice in the world today. I think that's all. So now we have an opportunity to wish His Holiness happy birthday. Okay, thank you.